Good evening, everyone. It is your girl, Marcy Thomas, and I am so thrilled to be back with you again for another episode of BGC Book Club. So come on in the room and let's get ready to have a wonderful conversation with a previous guest who's coming back for the second go around. And so I'm really excited to talk to her about this new book and give you an opportunity to be introduced to the author if you're not already familiar with her. So I'm coming to you from the outskirts of Atlanta. And if you'd like to let us know where you're joining us from, that would be awesome, just so we can know who all is in the room from US around the world, because we know we are global here with the BGC Book Club. So tonight's book is by our very special guest, Shirlene Obuobi, who recently wrote Between Friends and Lovers. Now, some of you may remember her being with us before for her book On Rotation. And like that book, we have some medical themes and all of that. So I know that you'll be excited to get into this one as well. Now, she is a Ghanaian American cardiologist, cartoonist, and author who grew up in Chicago, Illinois, Hot Springs, Arkansas, and the Woodlands, Texas. She appeared on Good Morning America to promote her debut novel On Rotation and is a regular contributor to the Washington Post. Now, when she isn't in the hospital, which she just told me, she's been in the hospital for the last several days, so it's a blessing to have her with us tonight. But when she's not doing that, she can be found drawing comments, writing on her phone, and talking to everyone who will listen about women's heart health. And so without any further delay, let's welcome Shirlene back to BGC Book Club. Welcome, Shirlene.
Thank you so much for having me again. What a delight.
Yes, it is a delight. And I'm excited about this new book. I told you before we came on, it's like, yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. So, of course, this is your second time doing this and you know, with a major publisher and all of that. So how does it feel this time around?
I think I got my feet wet with On Rotation, and Between Friends and Lovers really kind of flowed out of me at a time when I really needed to interrogate what it meant to be loved, to be protected. It was a book that healed me as much as I hope it heals others.
And yes, and I'm glad you said that. We're going to get into, you know, some of what it's about. But when you said that, I'm like, it absolutely does that, because just thinking about love and relationship and how we define it and how we find it, and, you know, what do we do when it presents itself? What do we do when it's not presenting itself? All those sorts of things. You touch on all of that along with so many other things. So first of all, congratulations again on this book and sharing this wonderful story. So of course you've already let us know that it's a love story, but there's a lot more that goes on besides that. And so for those who may not have had a chance to read it yet, just give us a little synopsis of what this book is about, Between Lovers and Friends.
So Between Friends and Lovers is about Josephine Boateng. She has recently graduated from her medical residency, but has been unable to kind of continue her career as a physician due to significant mental health struggles, and so makes her her living as an influencer, basically, and presents this image of herself as someone who's very glamorous, very confident, and in a way that is still very true to who she is, but has a pretty stark difference to who she is kind of behind closed doors. She's also is in this situationship versus or is best friends with a guy she has been in love with since they met in college. And when the book opens, he shows up to his 30th birthday party with her childhood bully, and doesn't really take her side. And she decides at that moment that maybe it's finally time to get over this person. And kind of at this opportune time, the male lead, Malcom Waters, presents himself. Malcom is quiet, introverted, a writer, is there at the party because her best friend Ezra's mom wants to option his book potentially for a film. And when they meet, they kind of almost immediately have this understanding of each other. And when I was creating their relationship, I really wanted Mal to be a source of like safety and security
Mhm.
for her. And present that kind of juxtapose that with Ezra, who is exciting, if occasionally infuriating, but maybe doesn't really give the sort of love that, Joe really kind of deserves.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a really an exploration of all different types of love, familial love, platonic love. Um, it talks in depth about mental health issues, how those hyper independence, trauma, lots and lots of little topics, just like you picked up on, Marcy.
Yes, yes. And I apologize. I don't know why I had lovers and friends when it's friends
It's
and
okay.
lovers.
It's
I
the
flipped it right
song.
quick.
No, everybody does it, and sometimes I'm like, should I have done that? But then,
Yeah, because there's a song, Lovers and Friends. There's a couple of songs, Lovers and Friends, and that's what was stuck in my head. So forgive me, everybody. I got it right. It's friends, between friends and lovers.
yeah, you're good. You're good.
Lovers and friends, whichever way it goes. But yes, and you're right. It just does pick up on all of those things because it's funny. Just a conversation I was having with some friends not too long ago, and we were talking about the whole concept of love and how we, yes, most humans do desire some type of romantic love. Most adults do. There are some who don't, but most do.
Right.
But getting to a space of understanding that love is about just more than romance.
It is.
And that there is space for, true familial love. There is space for true, friendship love. There's room for all of those things. And sometimes I think that us putting too much focus on the romance and romantic love can keep you from really understanding and enjoying the pleasures of other types of love and relationships.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
Mm-hmm. And so I love being able to see that play out in this book. Now, but there are also pieces of you as we get into and reading the book, because as you've already mentioned, one of the characters who we don't necessarily hear the story from his point of view, Ezra, he's talked about, but it's not really his point of view.
Right.
But he's he's an actor who plays a role in it. But then we have someone who's a physician / influencer, which you are a physician / influencer.
Yes.
And we also have an author.
Yes. You know what it is? I'm lazy. No, I'm kind of joking, but I'm kind of not. The part that I'm being lazy about it is I have a lot of careers, and it's really not, I know a lot about them, so I can tap into them pretty easily. But the other side of it too is kind of, I have a large social media following, and my although now, one thing I think that is really funny is that my social media content has started to become a little bit more like Joe's over time. Mostly because once I started writing this book, I was kind of like, this is a good idea. I should do this. Because I used to only really post my comics with commentary on healthcare disparities. And then when I started writing this book, I had Joe kind of make content that was a little bit more about giving medical advice. She specializes on talking about sexual health, right? I am a cardiologist, and so writing this made me think about, well, I should tell people about heart health, and specifically women's heart health. So in some ways, Joe sort of inspired me, right? But what I was able to really pull from my knowledge of the social media space is this concept of parasocial relationships.
Yes.
And how, and also this concept of the image you present of yourself and the image that you actually have. So from the parasocial relationship standpoint, I have a large following. There's about 123,000 followers or so on my Instagram. And so many of those people feel very connected to me because they've been following me for a really long time. They may feel like they know me. To the extent that if I see them in real life, like there's a line in there where it's like people will come and hug you, right? And you're like, oh. Like sometimes it's great if they tell me first, right?
Right.
But so and then there's this other aspect of it too. Like it's something I pretty openly talk about is that over the course of I got married about 2.5 years ago. And unfortunately I married a very abusive man, and I didn't know that until we got married. And so I was writing this book kind of under duress with someone who was almost not letting me write. And I was questioning, like, what is love? Like, this can't
Mm.
be it. I was really interrogating this question, and I was looking at it upside down, backwards, like looking at all different
Right.
types of love to try to like sort out what was going on in my own life. And also, because I like was doing that kind of deep dive, that deep search, even though I was sorry, what I meant to say was like I don't think anybody would have probably known that from my social media following, right? Like,
Right. Right.
not had any idea. I was still making videos about women's heart health. I was saying I'm publishing a book, I'm graduating fellowship, right? Like you
Mm.
just see the wins, so you don't see Joe like is posting herself with glamour shots. You don't see her isolating from her depression.
Right.
You don't see her in her toothpaste stained t-shirts, right? And in
Right.
her room, like with eating dry ramen noodles. You just see the glamour. And so I kind of introduced that aspect as well. So, when I write these characters, a lot of times their personalities aren't necessarily like mine.
Right.
I explore different facets, but I do pull a little bit from my experiences to hone in on some kind of message.
Mm-hmm. And God bless you. Number
Thank
one,
you. I got out. Don't
that
worry.
you said yes, ma'am. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Praise the Lord. We clap for that. Yes. Yes, sis. Yes. Yes. And that you, in going through that it says it's a testament to you that you were in the midst of going through these things, and that you could take your experiences and be able to learn and grow and find yourself, but then also be able to help a character to do the same and
Mhm.
share that with the world. So I think that's pretty powerful.
Thank you.
It really is. That really is, because, and I mean, what you're talking about is not like it's something that happened 20 years ago. You're talking about in the midst of it. So
Yeah.
that is really powerful that you were able to do that. And so, yeah, that makes this book even more special to me, knowing that.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, though, because yes, I mean, there are things that the characters are going through. Not necessarily that, but I'm thinking about Joe, and we don't do spoilers here, but just to like give a little bit. She was having challenges with a mother,
Mhm.
specifically, a strained relationship there that, could have, would have been deemed abusive by many. So
Right.
in telling that story, did you find it difficult to tell that as a mother-daughter story? Because so many people have these ideas that mothers and daughters always have these great relationships,
Mhm.
but we know that that's not always true. And for you to actually say that.
Right, right. No, I really wanted to explore with that. I mean, it wasn't exactly a one-to-one, right? Because so infrequently are my experiences necessarily one-to-one. But what I wanted to explore was this idea of a relationship that, you're born into. Your mom, when you're born into the world, someone like your mother is kind of supposed to love you,
Mhm.
right? Like that is a love that you're supposed to have. And what is it like when you don't even have that?
Mhm.
Right, when you come up and you're like you don't have a baseline, a foundation, that of somebody who has your back. Like what does that do to you from your like the standpoint of being able to trust? And also I think pretty importantly, one part I have in there is that Joe wants that relationship, and
Mhm.
there's a part of her that feels ashamed for wanting that relationship, right? Like it's not, she still craves that connection with this her mother that she has never been able to have. And some people ask me, why did I include that aspect there? And it's honestly just because love is complicated.
It is.
I don't really think that there's always a right way to approach some of these things. I know a lot of us are like, oh, cut this person off, like, do this, like, but I think that within the constructs of the story, there are a lot of relationships that my characters choose to navigate. Like they choose to keep certain people in their lives, and choose to change the nature of those relationships to be healthier for them, right? Without necessarily getting rid of them entirely. Like they're not, they accept the fact that this is how they feel about that person. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm. Right, yeah, and it's definitely interesting to see that and see how that plays out, and also knowing that our character is going through this. Josephine, Joe is going through this. It also colors some of the things that we see her going through in real time. When she, having a fear of abandonment, because that's something
Yes.
that if you didn't have, if that initial relationship wasn't what it was supposed to be, it can cause you to have a fear of abandonment in other relationships.
Exactly.
Maybe sometimes clinging where you shouldn't cling.
Exactly. You understood it. You get it. Yes. Exactly. Exactly. Like her trust issue, the way that Joe approaches her relationship with Mal, I mean, is so much of that is steeped in her past traumas, you know. And with Mal's character, first off, I am lucky enough to have many wonderful Black men in my life,
Yes.
who are loving and caring and sweet, and who are who like don't necessarily, their masculinity is kind of quieter, right? It's not out there banging your chest. Like it's very like, it may not be they may be shy, right? They may not be the loudest person in the room. They may not be assertive, but they are like know when to how to stand up for the people that they care about.
Right.
And Mal is that. He is a little bit older than Joe. He's been through stuff himself. He's had a long-term relationship not go well, right?
Right.
He's had his own mental health struggles. And I like to think of him as a few steps ahead of her in terms of his own self-discovery, self-love, healing journey. So that when he meets her, and they've already been interacting. There's a parasocial element
Right.
early in the book. They've already been interacting for years, actually, right?
Mhm.
So in some ways, when they first meet, they kind of know each other, but they don't really yet.
Right.
And I wanted Mal's character to be very sure about Joe. Like, he was like, no, that's my girl. Right? He kind of from the beginning. Right? And for Joe, who has never had anyone really be certain of her, to not fully know how to trust that. And so yeah, like I was thinking a lot about how so much of romance, a lot of times, like the butterflies we get, the flutters in our belly can actually be anxiety, right? And what it feels like to be loved by somebody whose love is very steady, and supportive, and like by someone who is like a friend, right? And who cares about you and protects you and shows up for you. And that's kind of what I wanted to show the case there.
Yes, and it is good to see, because we know that we don't see that a lot in characters, or even in our real lives. Let's just be honest. We don't always see that. And so it's good to see this person who has a level of sensitivity, that isn't afraid of sharing his feelings, because he's done some work. Because that's oftentimes one of the things that irritates me the most, is that it's always that women, you do this, you need to do that, get counseling, get coaching, do all these things so that you can be a suitable partner. But we don't always see men doing the same level of work. But in Malcom, we do see that.
Yes. I love when I see that in books. I'm a Kennedy Ryan fan, like a Kennedy Ryan super stan. And before I let go, like having her male lead, like in that chair, in that therapist chair, like I love to see it, and I hope it inspires real life men to actually go.
Yes, because it makes a difference. It definitely makes a difference. And, like I said, seeing his heart and seeing his sensitivities as well, and seeing him be open wherein maybe she's closed because of her experiences.
Exactly.
But then I'm also thinking about Joe's relationship with Ezra, and it's like, to me, it kind of felt like a trauma bond, just a little bit.
That's exactly what it is. I think I have a post where I draw Ezra, and I'm like, they're trauma bonded. Like it's
Yeah.
It's a little messy. It's a little.
Right. I mean, it's one of those things that you people might not think about. And for those who don't know what a trauma bond is, I'll let you explain what that is.
Oh, girl, off rip like that. I mean, they've shared a traumatic experience, and that has made them feel like they have this one particular world with each other. It's a codependent relationship, basically.
Yes, because it's like, okay, yeah, you can meet someone and you like them and all of that, but it's the thing that I think made her, feel a certain way about him, and maybe him to feel certain ways about her, but yet lines were or were not crossed. You got to read the book to find out along the way. But it's like, yeah, okay. And it also speaks to the thing of, if you, in this case, they've known each other for a long time, there's a level of comfort that sometimes people can have with someone because they've known them for such a long time, even if the relationship isn't good. And you talk about that, not just in terms of them, but there's a part in the book where you talk about that even in terms of just people with marriages that, they have a lot of marriages and maybe it's not, what it's cracked up to be.
Right.
On the surface.
Right. Exactly. No, exactly. I, people sometimes refer to Between Friends and Lovers as a love triangle. There's 3 people on the cover. There's there's a second lead, yes. When you first crack open the book and you realize that Mal has a perspective and Ezra doesn't, I think one way I want people to lead people to read is it really a love triangle, or is it really an exploration of, is Ezra really there as a foil? And in my opinion, he's there as a foil to Mal, right? Like Ezra would be the main lead in most other books. He's rich, he's white, he's handsome, he's kind of a playboy, right? Like he's her friend, right? So the friends to lovers trope would be very easy there, right? And reading BFL, like I feel that I personally don't dislike Ezra, right? Like I feel like a accurate reading of, or not accurate, but like my intended reading of his character is that you should walk away feeling kind of complicated feelings about him, right? And feeling that, like if he had gotten his stuff together a little bit earlier, maybe this could have worked in some other world, right? Like,
right.
But no, I think in my creating his character, I wanted a person who, like, when Ezra says he loves Joe, he's not lying.
Right.
It's not a lie, right? It's just like, is that love enough, right? In the ways that he expresses it, is it enough? Does it make her feel whole, right? Does it make her feel valued, right? Like, is he proud of her? Is he shouting it from the rooftops?
Right.
And like, I wanted that to be there. Like, I think I'm not a person who thinks that love should always will always come easily, but I do think that sometimes this idea of it being hard and arduous and taking all of this time, I mean, it's not the right one for you. So
right. And I mean, there is a thing of, you can love someone and being in love with someone. There's a difference.
There's a difference. Exactly.
And we get to see that, because yes, they love each other. They've got history and all these different things going on, but that doesn't mean that that's your quote unquote soulmate. It doesn't mean that that's your person. So I mean, sometimes it just is that way. And I guess getting to a space of understanding that and accepting it and moving on.
Exactly.
And and not being jaded by that experience, because that's a thing too.
Right. Exactly. And not being jaded by it, I think that was, and it was really fun to kind of write the juxtapositions of those relationships. Pretty early on, you'll find out within the first chapter that it's not just Ezra that Joe's close to, it's his mother, right? Like, you learn a little bit about her relationships. It's like Joe has this roommate, Dahlia, right? Like, who's like, Joe's closed off in multiple ways. She doesn't really have friends. Like, Dahlia is her friend. And Dahlia herself kind of knows that there are walls that Joe keeps up between them. There's like a level of closeness that even she doesn't let her come to, And so this whole book is my main character really learning to take down those walls and let people in, and let people love on her and take care of her. Right. There's a quote, I think, near the end where Mal says that, it was all hands on deck for him, and here he is to be her hands. Right. And that is, I think, one of the messages that I really want people to kind of take away from BFL.
Yes, yes, and he has good friends as well
Yeah.
that call him to the carpet, pull his feet to the fire, all those sorts of things, challenge him. And I mean, that's another thing as well that in both of their cases, they really have people around them that aren't necessarily just yes people who
Yes.
just go along with whatever they say, that they are really there in their lives and speak to them in loving ways and challenge them. And say, hey, why not this? Or, have you considered that? Or, why didn't you call him? Or why didn't you, those sorts of things. Sometimes, we need people like that, maybe can see something that we can't see, or they know us well enough to know, okay, you're saying one thing, but I know you really mean something else.
Yes. And that's why those platonic relationships, I love writing friendships. I love writing friendships. I have been so lucky to have so many. I have a large group of amazing friends, like ride or dies, who are the loves of my life. You know what I mean? I know, like, a lot of times we say that about romantic love, and I know I have a lot of loves in my life who are platonic, and I just love showcasing those sorts of relationships, right? Like how they often feel like family, exactly as you said. Like, they know what you're like, the times when the things that you're saying don't match what you're actually thinking or doing, and they can call you out. And it's a safe space to hear that feedback. Like those, Mal having that is extremely important, and Joe allowing that to grow with Dahlia is also extremely important.
And when you just talk about friendship, love, it makes me think of Insecure, how Issa Rae said the real love story was Issa and Molly.
Yes. Yeah, I love Insecure and Issa Rae. I'm obsessed. Like, I feel like I want to write like stories like that. Complicated, messy characters, and exactly the real love story between being between these two friends.
And all the ups and downs there. Yes. Well, you are on the right path, so we'll be looking for your stuff on TV. I'm just saying, get out there.
Come on, let's make it happen.
Get out there,
Thank you.
Get out there. But just in talking about the relationships and the interaction in all of the relationships, you definitely also dive into the careers, and we've already touched on that a little bit. Two of your careers specifically, but just I love how we have Jo, or Dr. JoJo. She's known this way on social media, and as you said, she's sharing these things about sexual health and all these sorts of things. But then there's a part of her, that is not really wanting to be involved in it, in the day-to-day of it, for a variety of reasons. But just experience of being a Black woman in the medical field.
Yes. No, Jo, it's implied that she has worked herself to the bone. She worked herself to the bone. And she already, like, her depression was something she's had for a long time, right? Like, I have a paragraph later in the book where she talks about how she remembers sitting in a lecture hall hearing about it and be like, maybe I've got an issue, right? Like, but her career struggles are really part of her own identity struggles, right? She grew up poor without any familial support, and wanted to pick a career that would guarantee her security, right? But also a career that would allow her, and like, this is it's not something I don't think I ever explicitly state in the book, but I think that, one of the things Jo struggles with is a sense of self-worth outside of what the things that she's doing, right? So it gives her purpose, right? And having left it, she left because she hasn't started another job or gone to fellowship despite getting emails from a professor to come back, because of the weight it had on her mental health. Like, it destroyed her. And how she had to be perfect. She had to be on top of everything. She's a empathetic person. She couldn't take the pressure of dealing with the more the bureaucratic aspects, right, of medicine, the healthcare inequities, right. And when I was writing this book, I had just graduated from residency. I was in my cardiology fellowship, and maybe even not when I first read it, when I first sold it, because I sold it on proposal. I had an idea, and I was like, "Here's the idea," right? And I had called it my burnout book because COVID, we had gotten out of COVID. We were in the ICUs, we were in the thick of it, and me and all my friends were joking. We're constantly making jokes about, okay, so we're quitting this, right? We're not doing this, right? And what would we do if we were to quit? It was just a joke for us because we knew we were going to keep going, right? But really, like, it made me think about what it would mean for a character who kind of, for whom, like, this is part of her identity, who has always dreamt of doing this thing, to kind of put those goals aside, right? And influencing, you sell things, right? Yeah, you're selling yourself. You're selling yourself. You're selling sometimes your talents, your voice, right? But a lot of times yourself, and you make money through advertisements mostly, right? And this one thing that I know, because I have this large following, is that if you have an MD after your name, people will offer you a lot of money to promote products that probably don't work, right? Supplements, snake oil, they'll offer you a lot of money, right? And so it can feel, I get a lot of offers and I turn most of them down, right? Because there's an ethical basis to it, right? And like someone like Jo, like, it's very hard for her to feel that fulfillment from the influencer part of it. Like, there's a part of her that feels like she's almost cheating other people, because she's used it. She knows she's getting these offers because she's a physician. She's seeing like she feels like she should be doing something more with her skills and her talents, while also not being able to go back and not having any other skills. So she's like, well,
right. Yeah. I can imagine that, the allure of the money, the funds, but then it's like, where number one, why did you get into it in the first place? Are you there is your passion to serve people, to help the people, all those sorts of things. And then being an integrity issue as well. We're asking you, like you said, the snake oil of it all, like, that sort of thing, and knowing that sometimes it could be causing harm. So that's definitely a thing to see that. But I just love the fact that you do inject, even though she's not specifically the type of physician that you are. I just love the fact that you inject that, and you give us some little health lessons in there, in a way that's not preachy. Little things in there that you can learn, and then take that back, and utilize that information. And then from Mal, from him being a writer, we get to see what that is like, what it can be like for that author who, has written a book, his first book that really, well, number one, it struggled to get there, finally gets there, is having success, but then it's like, okay, but what's the next thing? Because that's, people are always looking at what's next.
Exactly. Are you a one-hit wonder? And like, the environment of writing that second book is very different. Very different. You write your first book in a silo, no other voices. You're just writing what you want, right? And then it goes out into the world. You hear feedback from way too many voices, right? More people than your brain can hold. It does well or it doesn't do anything, and then people are looking at you. They give you a deadline. They're looking at you for the next one.
Right.
What does it look like when you go from having endless amounts of time to finish the book and to having 9 to 10 months?
And you've already been paid for it, so you better deliver.
Exactly. And I'm lucky in the sense that I have another career, And so my livelihood doesn't depend on my writing, right? But Mal's livelihood does depend on his writing, right? And so he needs to keep it going. He needs to keep those creative juices flowing. And also deal with his own imposter syndrome, and his feelings that he feels often that he's very lucky and that he has to do whatever he can to maintain this, while also he's not a particularly ambitious person, right? Like he's someone who kind of is an artist in the true sense of the word. He likes the he likes the craft. So finding motivation even within himself to keep pushing forward is like kind of a challenge for him.
Yeah, and I definitely, I talk to a lot of writers, so I know that can be true, for sure, for a lot of people, just being able to find their muse and keep working from that space of being, feeling like I'm not just putting this out just because somebody's telling me to, or I'm not just writing a trope just because that's the trope, what it's supposed to look like, and being able to add pieces of yourself and your own creativity to it. So yeah, that's definitely something, just looking at that. And also, this is something that I've talked to other authors about, is that he has to become an influencer of sorts.
Yes. It's so interesting. I feel like when I was reading books as a kid, and even up until maybe 5-6 years ago, you would not know what an author looked like. You would have no idea, right? Sometimes if they used initials, you wouldn't even know that if they were a man or a woman.
Right.
It wouldn't even really matter, right? Like if you were a super fan, you could send an email into the ether or snail mail out there, and maybe someday that person might respond to you, and it would be the best thing to ever happen to you in your life.
Right.
Right. But now the landscape for selling books has changed so dramatically. Some things have been good. I don't think that, I think we needed social media to even have underrepresented voices heard, right? Because they didn't make room for Black writers, Black and Brown and Indigenous writers until very recently, right? Especially in the romance genre. It was like Jasmine Guillory. They took Jasmine Guillory on board and then let us all, a lot of us in after her, right?
Right.
And in the traditional spaces at least. But now, because social media has become a place where you sell things, right? You are supposed to make yourself into a brand, right? In a lot of author spaces, we talk frequently about how, we came into this to write, not to necessarily be a mini celebrity, right? And how difficult it is to stay afloat if you are not a social media person, how difficult it is to put your whole face out there when you also have already put your heart out there in your words, it's and how it kind of sometimes blurs the lines between having a parasocial relationship is already kind of natural if you're reading 100,000 words of work, right? But when you add the element of social media to it, it becomes even closer. So it's a really interesting space. And so yeah, Mal, who is introverted, keeps to himself, is a self-proclaimed hermit, having to put his face out there, right? Is daunting for him.
His fine face, and then now the women are kissing him. It was like that. Didn't know he was fine. Okay.
Right? Exactly. They're all like, oh.
No more books that way. I'm just saying. But
that's what his agent was saying. His agent was like, look. If you don't wear a tight t-shirt and go
sign these books, boy. What's wrong with you? Oh, that is too funny. But yeah, that's something that comes up a lot when I've talked to writers, either here or even offline. Because I have some of my author friends, we talk offline, and it's something that's like, you have to be out there, and sometimes even to have an opportunity to get picked up, they're gonna look and see, do you already have an audience? Because it's hard. They're not necessarily willing to take a chance on somebody that's an unknown.
Exactly.
So those are
Exactly.
all things to consider. But in this book, of course, there is love, there are challenges, there are friendships, there are all kinds of things going on dealing with mental health, family and all that. But there is some spice in here too.
My mama read it.
Oh, what did Mama have to say?
Mama said that she pretended that it wasn't written by me.
That's funny. She's like, my baby didn't write this. She did not.
But she still read it though. She didn't.
Read it though. Now that's funny. Oh, that's funny. That'd be like me. I write a book like, Mom, don't read pages.
Don't read, exactly.
You know, that'd be first when she turns.
I told my mom I was gonna give her a redacted version. I was gonna be like, she got a special one with those pages cut out. But yes, there is spice.
There is
in this
spice.
one.
There is spice in this one, yes. So was it challenging or easy for you to add the spice to it?
Oh, pretty easy. Girl, I've been reading everything since I was way too young to be reading it.
Right.
But I think I think that sex scenes, when done right within a romance, can tell you a lot about the characters and where they are emotionally, where they are together, where they how they feel about themselves, how they feel about each other, right? And so, I think on rotation, there's a scene, but it's not a closed door, but it's like a blurred open door, right? Like there's a lot of implication, but I don't really get into it. Versus in Between Friends and Lovers, I do get into it, and people either say, "Whoa, this is really spicy," or they say this is not spicy at all, depending on their tolerance levels, right? And like within the scenes, there's only 2 of them. Within the scenes, there's a pretty dramatic difference in like how the characters, how they play out, right? And it is a subplot in the book that Jo's a virgin, right? Jo she's a 29-year-old virgin, right? She is, while a virgin, not like shy or innocent about it, right? She's like, I just simply have not met a person who I wanted to do this with. Right.
And that's fair. And that's smart.
Exactly. And some of that is her trust issues, and some of that is her medical knowledge, and some of that is her pining after Ezra. But a lot of it is, just no one has really showed up that has made it worth it for me, right? And now it's worth it. And so her approach is not, like shy, hiding behind anything. Hers is like, all right. And I feel like there are a lot of late bloomers out here. There's a lot of people who like for either personal reasons, religious reasons, or just because they haven't really like been in that place in their life yet, have not. Like I was not that late of a bloomer, but I was a fairly late bloomer compared to a lot of my friends, right? And it doesn't, I kind of wanted the people who have been in that position to feel a little seen, and to not have it be this like blushing milkmaid thing that always gets put around, right? I really wanted to push upon, like she actually explicitly says it, something about how the Madonna whore, the Jezebel complex, right? About how she's openly glamorous and sexy online, right? She's not trying to pretend. Like she sells, like she at some point she sells herself, she sells her image as well, and that part of her appeal as on her platform is that she has this juxtaposition of like, okay, yeah, like she talks about sex, she is openly beautiful, right? Like online. However, she's never had sex, so you can't really put her in the Jezebel whore category, right? Like she kind of dodges it in a weird way, and that makes her interesting to and it's what helped her get her a big influx of followers in the first place, right? So it's kind of going back to like the spicy scenes are meant to be part of that commentary as well.
Right.
And they're fun to write.
Mhm. Fun to read. Yes, it definitely so, because I mean, of course, we're not giving any spoilers. We're just giving you a little taste of what
Just
you get
teasers.
when you read Between Friends and Lovers. But it's just that in reading her, it's like, okay, this is a woman. She knows who she is in this space, and
Right.
she knows what she wants, and she's not afraid. And it's not, like you said, it's not this shy, oh, I don't know anything, oh, it's none of that. She has the knowledge. She knows.
Right.
She wanted to wait until the time and the person was right, and I'm okay with that. We're okay with that. That's
Yeah.
a smart way to be.
Right. Exactly.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the book, you've already shared that you were dealing with a lot of things and just wanting to understand love and looking at different aspects of love and different types of relationships and things like that as you were writing it. But what are some of the things that you would want other people to take away from Between Friends and Lovers?
Sure. Oh, that's a really good question. So, I mean, I think I always put who my books are for in the dedication, right? Like, I don't write to a wider audience. In fact, a lot of times I kind of assume that most people won't pick up on the nuances, right, in the books, right? And we'll pick up maybe on the larger themes, or may not get all the small themes. But I wrote this book for the strong girls, right? Like, it's for the women who have always had to carry the world on their backs and who have not ever had a chance to have anyone take any of that burden off of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I want people to, when they're reading into this, those who may empathize with that, to recognize that they deserve that kind of love, and to look into their own lives and see where they're like, are there places where you aren't getting that? And do you need to re-interrogate that relationship, right? Those
Mm-hmm.
relationships. I wanted it to also, I also wanted to showcase a healthy relationship within a romance novel. Not to say that the other ones are not healthy, etc., right? But just something a little quieter,
Yeah.
right? Like, the love is strong. It's based in mutual respect and regard and adoration,
Mm.
right? And it's not dramatic. The love themselves, like, there's external stuff. The external stuff is dramatic,
Yes.
but the love itself is not. You
Right.
know, and I wanted, I think, like, I was like, I bet my younger readers are gonna be like, this is boring. She should get with Ezra, right? Right? Like, but.
No.
But I really wanted to showcase and celebrate that kind of love. And then I also, I also wanted a depiction of depression in Black women, right? Because I think that so often we are, even like politically, socially, we are always kind of seen as everybody's savior,
Right.
right? Like, one part of, that I think it's implied about Ezra's regard for Joe is
Mm-hmm.
that he puts her on this pedestal of somebody who's, like, always tough, can take anything, will always bounce back, right? And
Mm-hmm.
will always be reliable, always be supportive, is a savior, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how, like, that is inherently dehumanizing, right? Like, the fact is that
Mm-hmm.
we, even if we push through our mental health issues because we have to, because we know no one is going to save us, right? Like,
Right.
we have them, right? And I wanted it to be like, yeah, like, her depression's real. It's
Yes.
not solved by true love's first kiss,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's not any reflection on, it doesn't make her a worse person, right? Or lazy, etc. I wanted that to be there as well. And to also be like, yeah, she deserves love too. She
Mm-hmm.
deserves that protection, that regard, that appreciation, even when she is not able to give to others. Um,
Mm-hmm.
let me think. Okay, that's what I can think of for now.
Yes, yes. And I mean, and just even seeing what that looks like, what that depression could look like, because people that can be quote unquote highly functioning and what it looks like when they're not highly functioning, or when a person may go into a shell, or whatever the case may be. So yes, it is important to be able to see that and to understand it and put a name to it, because sometimes we don't know. I had the honor of talking to someone actually over the weekend, and I'll be sharing her interview soon. But she grew up with a mother that had mental health issues, and just how that played out, and how sometimes people can have certain behaviors, and we assign a value to that behavior, or we assign a label to that behavior, or maybe they're doing things because they're trying to self-medicate or self-soothe, or whatever the case may be. So yes, it is definitely important to be able to see that and see what it looks like, and see how different people navigate those types of challenges.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with that. And just love. I love. We love. And just seeing people work through it. And I do like the fact that it's it's a burn, but it's a slow burn. And I like the fact that it's, while there is the heat, while there is the spice, that the relationship isn't just that.
Yes, exactly. They love each other, and they both do for each other in different ways.
Bring out the best in each other. So I love that. So of course, Between Friends and Lovers came out at the end of July, correct?
Yes, I sure did.
Okay, yes. It just took a little bit to get you here.
We made it happen.
Yeah, we made it happen. So are you still in the process of going out and doing events, or where are you in that? Are there places where people can be on the lookout for you, either virtually or in person, in the months to come?
Yes. So we're trying to make something happen in Texas, actually, in a couple of weeks, potentially in Austin. So I'm Houston or Austin. I'm trying to work that out. I'll put something out there for you guys when that happens. And I will also be at the Miami Book Festival in November.
Okay.
So those of you over in Miami, please come find me. I'm on a panel on Saturday, November 23rd, I believe it is.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds right. Saturday before Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Well, that sounds good. Well, I know that you are busy, lady, and you've told me you've been working days and days and days, and are continuing to work. So I am not going to belabor and hold you any longer. I do appreciate you, as always, for making time for BGC Book Club, Brown Girl Collective. You were here with On Rotation, Between Friends and Lovers, and whatever's next. Is there anything we can be on the lookout for you anytime soon?
I am working on my third, and I will let you guys know.
All right.
It's even more different.
Okay. So, you're welcome, Paula. So thank you. Great conversation. Enjoy your joy and laughter. Yes. Please go ahead and grab a copy of the book. It is a good book. I enjoyed it. You're going to, get some good things out of it and learn some things as well. You're welcome, Cleta. Yes, another one for the list. Yes, ladies, please grab these books and share with others. It is on audio as well, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So yes, you have options for those of you who may, might not have a lot of time to read, physical books, but to get the audios and things like that as well. So that's all we have for tonight. Thank you again, Shirlene. And I look forward to seeing you when the next book comes out, and the next and the next and the next.
Exactly. I'll be here, Marcy.
Yes, your regular thing. So to everyone, I'll let you go and grab your water, and I'll be back with you in just a second. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for being here again. To Paula, Cleta, who are regulars here, as well as some of you who may be watching for the first time, please go ahead and pick up a copy of Between Friends and Lovers and share it with others, and get On Rotation as well, because that's another good book. by the same author. We always want to support our Black women writers, because the more we support their works, whether they're the older ones or the newer ones, the more that the publishing houses know that we like reading their works, and they'll be willing to help them get more and more out to us. So that's all I have for now. I will be back with you next week with another great author. And until that time, you all enjoy yourselves. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you again real soon. Take good care. Bye-bye.